Hi everyone, welcome back to Law School Gems with Bria. My name is Bria Riley and I'm the founder of Law School Gems. I am also Director Corporate Counsel of a publicly traded company here in Dallas, Texas. And today we are going to be reinforcing some during the interview tips. And I know that I shared some in previous videos, but I wanted to reinforce some. So without further ado, let's dive right on into your interview tips.
We are born to win. Come and learn the basics with Law School Gems.
Now, we want to make sure that we are breathing, right? Breathing during your interview is very important because that's going to be your pause before you think and then before you answer. And the reason that you want to employ those 3 tips before you answer a question is because it's going to calm your nerves and anxiety. It's going to help you answer the question in an organized fashion. It's going to help you be concise. It's going to help ensure that you are actually answering the question specifically and not going off on a tangent. You're also able to ensure that everything that you wanted to say in order to answer that question as best as you know how, that you actually said it. Because how many of us, me included, have left interviews and thought, man, I wish I could have answered that question differently, or that one thing that I wish I could have said that I didn't because I was rushing through it and not appreciating the process because I was so nervous. So don't do that. You want to leave everything out there on the stage as you're performing, because that's what an interview is. You're putting your best foot forward. It is the real version of you, right? But it's also the best version of you. You're sending your representative, and so you want to make sure that you leave no stones uncovered, and you'll be perceived better by your interviewer as well. Now, you don't want to take too much time before you answer a question because you want to show competence, right? And you want to show capability, and you don't want the interviewer to start negatively associating the fact that you're taking too much time to answer a question with maybe you came unprepared. So we definitely don't want to do that. And if you are unsure about what the interviewer is actually asking you, like what the root of their question is or what they're getting at, it's okay to ask for clarity, right? I would much rather you do that, and I'm sure a lot of interviewers would rather you do that as well, as opposed to guess or speculate as to what the interviewer is asking and then totally answer the wrong question or not answer it in a way that really puts your best foot forward and that puts you ahead of your competition. And remember in the previous videos where we talked about what you do during the interview and how you prepare for it, right? So those questions that you came to the interview with, prepare to ask the interviewer. Once the interviewer opens up the floor for any questions that you may have, make sure that you ask them questions as well to show thoughtfulness, to show consideration, and to show that you've really thought about this position and that it's important to you, you value it, you're not wasting their time, and that you were invested in this process. You also want to be sure that you are engaged with the interviewer and the process, right? So eliminate distractions, don't take calls or texts during interviews. I know that may seem like a no-brainer, but trust me, I've seen it, and I've also heard horror stories about it. You want to make sure that you are making eye contact, that you are nodding in affirmation as you are engaging with the interviewer during dialogue. And sometimes you may even find it helpful if you repeat what the interviewer has asked you as the part of your introduction into your answer before you answer the question, right? So when the interviewer poses a question, you may want to take a snippet of that to help get the ball rolling for your answer. And so that way the interviewer knows you are employing active listening as well. Don't overtalk. That's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that way we can listen more than we speak. And if you give the interviewer, which is usually a lawyer, the floor to speak, they are going to do so because, as you can see, we like to talk. So do a lot of listening because you're going to gather a lot of far more better, insightful information than you would if you were doing the majority of the talking the majority of the time. Avoid asking over personal questions or insensitive questions or questions that are just professionally inappropriate or questions that may seem political, controversial, or tied back to religion. And remember, if you are uncomfortable answering a question, set a strong boundary and let them know that you're uncomfortable answering that question, and then don't. No explanation necessary, because you want to show people from the outset how to treat you and what your boundaries are and what's comfortable for you and what's not. And then finally, know your number. A lot of times during an interview, sometimes the interviewer will ask you on the spot what your salary requirements are, and you better damn well know your number. You better know what you're going in there looking for or expecting, and it better be in line with the industry standard, the practice area that you're going to be in, what's reasonable for that market, for that geographic location, if you're going to be remote versus having to go into the office. And there's a variety of different factors out there that really go into researching salary and knowing what that number is and making sure it's aligned with the role. Specifically, if that job description that you applied to was transparent with what the salary requirements are. That means that they are really only looking for candidates that are willing to accept whatever salary requirement was listed. And you don't want to go over that, but you definitely don't want to go under that as well, right? And you want to start how you want to finish. Because if you go in not negotiating for yourself, not being an advocate, not setting a strong number from the outset that shows you've done your research and it's backed by information that you've gathered that you can use as support and proof, then you are already setting yourself up for failure, right? And to be behind the pack, especially if there was someone who also negotiated their salary to be more than yours, because it doesn't matter how good you do, absent some stellar promotion or some stellar raise, you're never going to be able to catch up to that person who started off in the same role as you, same experience, same background, same education, but they negotiated more. So always be sure that you know your number. And you can also ask the recruiter before going into the interview, or even the interviewer, what is the range for the salary? What is the low to max or the minimum to max? Now for you, in discussing your salary requirements, remember that when you give a low part of your range, because you want to give a range, you don't want to give a specific number because you want to show that you're flexible if asked the question during an interview. So the low part of your range needs to be about $5,000 to $10,000 higher than the number that you are willing to commit for, right? That is the bare minimum that you need to accept that job, but you don't want to start at that number because employers always negotiate down. So you want to start your low range at about $5,000 to $10,000 over, which you have to have in order to accept this role. And then your maximum range for the salary requirements that you put forth should be $5,000 to $10,000 over whatever the maximum is for the salary requirements for that company. And then find a happy median in between, and that's how you come up with the proper salary during negotiations once it's time for that, which usually happens at the offer stage. So you guys, that is all the tips that I have today for reinforcing what you should be doing during an interview, and I hope that you found these gems helpful. If you did, please feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you get notices and alerts for when I upload new gems, and share this video with people who you think need to hear it. They need to know more about how to interview and what to expect during an interview and what to be doing, specifically if they're in law school, if they're considering law school, or if they have matriculated through their law school career and need some extra gems along the way. And thank you so much for watching to the very end. It really helps me to grow this channel. I know you could have been anywhere in the world, but I appreciate all my gems for coming back and watching these videos. And until next time, stay safe, and I will see you guys again. Bye, y'all.